Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history. That's actual physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or you're retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/stone right now for your free Roger Stone Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit. Or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589. Call now to receive your free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And joining us now to talk about the debate and the high stakes, it is hours away, is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, we're so glad to have you back. Explain what you think how important tonight is for both candidates.
Well, I think it's dramatically more important for Kamala Harris. Trump's base has stuck with him through 2 impeachments, a series of other efforts. You know, it's been amazing the amount he's had to put up with, and yet he's still there. And I think what that says to me is that he's almost certainly not going to lose very many people no matter what happens tonight. On the other hand, most of the country doesn't really know Kamala very well. And a lot of her current support is very soft and is based on people responding to the way the news media has projected her and, you know, sort of built her up as an iconic figure. And I think as people learn how radical she is, her support begins to weaken. I think Trump's base is probably 48 or 49%, and her base is probably 42. I think that if you really look at the data we've developed at America's New Majority Project, which have been taking polling since 2018, you can see there's a hardcore left, and then there's a much bigger center that is actually very anti-left on virtually every issue that she stands for. And I think as people learn that, she has a huge problem. So she needs to come out of the box tonight and do well enough that she's seen as a genuine alternative to Trump. And if she can't do that, I think she'll decay very rapidly.
You know, so Mr. Speaker, Hillary Clinton just came out recently and said baiting Trump to self-destruction is one of the best things that Kamala Harris can do. That's clearly their strategy. They kind of keep putting out that she's going to try to go for these zingers. How do you see that playing out, and how do you see Trump responding? I know the mics are going to be muted, despite what Harris tried to change.
Well, I would say Hillary's a good example that baiting Trump doesn't work very well. You know, I mean, this guy's been through a whole series of debates in 15 and 16 where he knocked out 15 other Republicans. Then he debated Hillary and I think ultimately won those debates. And then he's basically come to totally dominate the Republican Party. He normally speaks for somewhere between an hour and 90 minutes. So the idea that somehow he's going to freeze up tonight verges on silly. And he also, people don't understand this, but Trump's debate preparation is 7 days a week. He's listening to people all the time. He's thinking about things all the time. The idea that somebody would hide in a room like he was cramming for a final exam tells you they're not ready to be president.
Yeah, you know, we were talking, John, and we talked about it on the show yesterday, that 3 a.m. phone call. And the world is really on fire right now, Mr. Speaker. And you think about it, it could not be a more pivotal moment. I mean, you look at what's going on with Israel, Russia, Ukraine, China. You know, there are times where you really do need somebody who is a really strong commander in chief. Do you think we will clearly see that contrast tonight? She's going to try to pretend like she is, and her ads she kind of portrays like she's had this epiphany. How does Trump clearly make that contrast so the American public knows it's bait and switch?
Well, I don't know what the rules are, but what he ought to do is say, when Bernie Sanders said Sunday that you were pretending to switch so you could get elected, was he right? I mean, Sanders, I thought, was just devastating Sunday when they said, why do you think she's changed? And he said, oh, she hasn't changed. She's just pragmatically pretending to be somebody to win the election. And with friends like that, you don't need a whole lot of opponents.
Absolutely. And, tonight, I think she practiced 10 standard answers to everything, and she's just going to have this. She's going to have 10 answers regardless of what the questions are.
You know, what's really challenging about television and what most people don't fully appreciate is in the end, it's about authenticity. Trump may be rough around the edges, but he's authentically rough around the edges. Reagan came across as an authentic person. Obama, for that matter, whether you elected politics or not, Obama came across as genuinely Obama. Her problem is that she is endlessly phony, and she's endlessly been trained. And I also think part of it's biological. One of the great advantages Bill Clinton had was he never lied. He always said exactly what he had to say to get through that moment, and at the moment he said it, he always believed it. So you didn't have any, if you ever watched Clinton at his peak, he never had any hesitation. One of the challenges that Hillary had and one of the challenges that Kamala has is she's going to slow down and try to remember what her coaches told her to say. And that gives you sort of a half-second pause that looks inauthentic. It looks like, oh, yeah, she's trying to remember what she's memorized. And Trump won't have that problem because Trump doesn't memorize. He just learns.
You know, Mr. Speaker, what do you think is going to happen? It's interesting. I've been watching the spin today from the Kamala Harris team to explain these dramatic flip-flops, like you said, with these canned lines. And they kept saying a line which makes me think she's going to say this tonight, that in her time as vice president, she's evolved. And that's why all of these ideas that are huge. I mean, we're talking about her views on ICE. We're talking about her views on guns. We're talking about her views on fracking. I mean, it's obviously inconceivable, but she's going to come and say, it is because, she's evolving over the last 3.5 years. How does he spin that and say, that's a lot of evolution?
Well, I think all you say is, so since you evolve so easily, how can we possibly know who you'll be in January?
Great line, Mr. Speaker. Great line. Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for being with us here on such an important night. We love you, Newt. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Newt.